What's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it and give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Check that out as well.
Also, check out our sponsor, wineaccess.com/ham. Get you 20% off some of the best wines in the world with a satisfaction guarantee.
It's easy. You just go to wineaccess.com/ham. 20% off. You can order individual bottles. You can order several bottles. You can join some of their clubs. Ton of options. Go check it out on us. 20% off. wineaccess.com/ham.
Just got to be 21 or over. All right, let's get to the content. There's another element to this Trey Lance thing, right, which is how does he affect either Jimmy Garoppolo's value as a trade? Well, he affects Jimmy Garoppolo's value whether he's on the Niners or whether he's on another team. So how does what people think of Trey affect the way they or the 49ers look at Jimmy Garoppolo? Because we've talked about this, like you've said, and I would agree with you, as people that thought, and I still think Jimmy won't be on the team. If the pick is Trey Lance, based on things that Mel Kiper has said to us in the past about the developmental level of Lance versus some of the other guys who may be more ready to play, maybe the door is a little open on Garoppolo hanging around and being the quarterback until he's ready.
Well, I've been adamant that I didn't believe when they said that Jimmy was – I believe when they called Jimmy after the trade, but the way they described, you're still in our plan, you're still going to be our starting quarterback. And then the Mac Jones hype happened. Like, in no world can you sit Mac Jones behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, he has to start. I believe the same thing with Justin Fields. 5-star guy, multiple-year starter at Ohio State. There ain't a soul. You're consumer. Now, Kyle, in a weird way, doesn't really answer to the consumer. He answers to Jed. But, like, there's no – Justin Fields has to play right away. Trey Lance, little bit different story. Even though I'm not a believer in not playing guys. I'm adamantly opposed to that philosophy. I think it's antiquated, outdated. The game's changed. I do think this guy's a unique entity. Like we've talked about his story. Like he doesn't have much in common with these other guys. Even Mac Jones, who only really started a year and a couple games because of Tua, he was still at the highest level practicing. When he was the backup, what does that mean? He's running scout team, I don't know, against Alabama's defense every day. Obviously, Justin Fields has played right away. This guy, it is a huge transition. Now, Carson Wentz, if you remember, they drafted Carson Wentz, and they were adamant. He's not going to start. He's not going to start. We have Sam Bradford. Now, granted, Teddy Bridgewater's leg fell off. Minnesota calls, so we'll offer you a first-round pick. I think part of it was, though, is they realized this guy's actually probably a little more ready than we thought, right? Now, he was a senior. He had played more. But you could convince me that Jimmy Last, at least with, I don't know if you saw, the Niners boycotted OTAs.
They joined the
they joined the group. So if OTAs aren't happening, at least see what he looks like in training camp and then kind of go from there. So I will change my tune if Trey Lance is there. I'll change my tune in the sense that I could see them keeping Jimmy through, at least in training camp, to see, like, is this guy swimming? Is this guy, is he ready? He's the greatest unknown because he's everything you'd want. And, like, you trade up, you take this huge swing, but, like, right now he's not ready. Like, I'd give the Niners credit for making this pick. Like, God, this took vision. This took fucking balls. This was what everyone wanted you to do. But, like, in the short term, this guy's not ready to play week one.
Yeah,
with no off season.
Right. That would make it even a bigger challenge. I mean, you think about the guy that I've compared him to in terms of just maybe where he is from a developmental standpoint is Josh Allen. And Josh Allen didn't start every game his rookie year, right?
I think he did.
What's that?
You don't think he did?
No, I'm just looking. He started 11 games his rookie year, played in 12. Nathan Peterman started a couple. Who else was a Barkley starting? Did Barkley start a game for them? 2018 Bills.
I felt like Josh Allen was a starter week one.
Derek Anderson started 2 games for them.
Who was the starter? Do you have the game log open for Josh Allen?
The Ravens week 1, and did he get hurt? I mean, he threw 5 passes. He threw 15 passes. Nathan Peterman threw 18 passes. So,
I don't remember.
Let me go to their play-by-play, see who was on the field first. Flacco. So Peterman started the game.
Gotcha.
But But again,
And Josh Allen had played way more in college.
This is my point. Is Josh Allen played a lot, and now you could go back and go, they should have started in week 1, right? I'm not saying that the way they did it was some proof that that's the way you got to do it. But I guess my point is Josh Allen statistically, as a guy who had played a lot more, he was 53%, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks. Like, if you think you're a team that can go to the NFC Championship game, if you think you're a Super Bowl contender, which is what they're acting like in every other aspect, right?
Yeah.
Playing Trent Williams, bringing all these guys back, like
Josh Allen had a fundamental flaw is why he was a project, his accuracy. Trey Lance is more experienced, not necessarily people are going to be viewed. I mean, he was an accurate quarterback is when you're starting. That to me, that's where they don't parallel each other in terms of their story. Like to me, Josh Allen's like, we need to work on him getting more accurate. Trey Lance is like, we just need to work on him getting more reps. The only way to rep is play. Like they thought Josh Allen, I think the mindset was behind Josh Allen, like he just needed time to get his accuracy. That's where I think the Kaepernick stuff, the same thing with Kaepernick, try to get him. That's not really going to be this guy's deal. Now, I have heard people think his release a little loopy, so I don't know if they think they need to break down some release stuff, like work on like quote unquote golf swing type deal, which could take some time.
That's what John Beck is for, John.
Well, I think that's where, but he's only been with him for really since the trade.
Now. Yeah, maybe more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I'm not saying he would absolutely be 53%, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks like Josh Allen. He might be better than that. I just right now, to your point, until you get to see him, you can't expect more than that. I don't think.
Well, you're saying Josh Allen was 10 and 12 his rookie season for the Bills.
His rookie season for the Bills. The next year he was 20 and 9.
And
59%.
To my core, you only get better in life doing things like you called play-by-play games when you were a kid into a mic. Now that or into a recorder. I mean that helps, but like you got better once you start calling games, actual games.
Right.
Like you get
Real
better
pressure.
playing football. Now, you're right. The Niners, their goal this year is to make the playoffs. Their best asset right now on their team, or at least like the asset with the widest range of return, where it could return nothing, or if Jimmy Garoppolo started 16 or 17 games this year and the Niners made the playoffs and Jimmy had a better season than he did 2 years ago, he would 100% immediately be worth a first-round pick. If he gets hurt week 5 and then Trey Lance gets thrown in right away, he immediately becomes kind of irrelevant as an asset, right? Well, I mean, Jimmy's one injury away from having no tradable value, given his cap number even the following year that he's still under contract. So you have to balance out like Trey Lance's development, Jimmy Garoppolo, the asset, what you can get now, what you can get big picture. Like part of it for the Eagles is I don't think they truly want to start Carson Wentz and someone offer him a 1, right? If someone offered you a 1, you're like,
wanted to trade Carson Wentz, you're saying?
No, I don't. Sorry, Carson Wentz, Sam Bradford. Remember Carson was, the last guy from North Dakota State that started, but it's like, if someone offered the 49ers a 1 during training camp, you cannot turn that down. I don't give a shit about Trey Lance's value.
Right.
Because ultimately, you're all in on this guy. So if worst case scenario, you got to go through the struggle bus for a year. It's part of the developmental growing pains.
Yeah, it might get you to where you want to be faster.
Yeah.
Right?
Because your whole success is going to revolve around this kid.
Totally. Now, the other sort of butterfly effect or domino effect is if they don't draft Trey Lance, who does? Because if they don't draft Trey Lance, we think then they're drafting a player that's ready to play right away, right?
It does feel pretty set in stone that 4 quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if the Falcons are going to make that.
Yeah, it might be somebody trades out. I guess my point is if somehow New England, who's at 15, which is not 28, like this is as close as Bill gets by and large to getting up there. If somehow New England ends up in a position to take a guy and they take, let's say the Niners don't take Trey Lance, they take Justin Fields. And as you've been saying from the beginning, and I 100%, I don't think we've been consistent with this, Jimmy Garoppolo is not Justin Fields is not backing up Jimmy Garoppolo. But now where does Jimmy go? Like, I think once you draft somebody who's not, once you're open to Jimmy not being your quarterback, I can't get too caught up in the value you get for him. Like, I'm not hung up on I need a first because if Trey Lance is on the Patriots, Jimmy Garoppolo's not going to the Patriots.
It does feel like Justin Fields, if the Niners take Trey Lance and Justin Fields goes 4, let's say the Patriots trade up, Denver trades up, whoever. Jimmy Garoppolo's value, because of like we're talking about Trey Lance right now, he might not, even if the Denver trades up, they still might start Drew Lock this year and just work with Trey Lance this offseason, right? Or I mean this season, don't have to start him. Same with the Patriots. Is that Jimmy still would have value in one of these groups if they could just give a second round pick? Like to me, if Justin Fields goes 4 to one of the that team is 100% out of the Jimmy even short term.
So who would be? You're saying you think Denver? See, maybe Denver would do that. It feels kind of weird, right, to have Lock around.
Yeah, I think Justin Fields. Whoever drafts Justin Fields, he's starting week 1.
Agreed.
To me, Trey Lance, like you could double. Like you could convince me if you're New England, you're like, let's trade up to 4. Let's say the Niners take Justin Fields at 4 or 3. New England trades from 15 to 4 to get Trey Lance. Like you could still say, hey, we're still going to try to win the division this year, get Jimmy, or basically have 3 quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo's our starter, Cam Newton's our hybrid, and Trey Lance is our project for the following year when we just cut or trade Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, you're not, if you're New England and you're in that position, you're not giving up anything significant for Garoppolo, given whatever you just had to give up to get from 15 to 4, right?
True, but I do think you could be like, what if Jimmy looks good? Then we could flip him again next year.
Yeah, you probably could.
You know, I mean, that's because he's under contract for a couple years. Because I just think Bill, like, it would be just they just had the worst quarterback room in the league. Now all of a sudden you're like, we got Jimmy, we got this big time project, and we got Cam.
Cam's cheap.
Right? Yeah.
Cam's your backup if Jimmy gets hurt. Trey's your project. If he's ready early, then he plays earlier.
I think that specific example works the most for New England just because it's all plug and play with Jimmy. It might get a little more complicated other teams.
Yeah, I mean, like another team that it might work for is if you go, we're drafting Trey Lance at 9, Denver. We don't want Drew Lock to be the guy leading the quarterback room for Trey Lance. Like, we don't want – that's just a weird situation. So we'll move on from Lock and we'll add Jimmy for not much.
The problem is, like, what would it cost New England 15 to 4? 15, next year's 1, and like a 3?
Feels good.
It cost the Niners 3 1s and a 3.
I mean, if you're Atlanta, are you going from 4 to 15 is a long way to go if you're Atlanta.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it might cost them
another
the 1 and their 2 next year.
2.
So maybe it's not realistic to do the Jimmy thing too. But I do think Bill probably feels like my team's pretty ready right now.
Also,
I just need to get my quarterback situation right.
Yeah, I mean, also, what if Trey Lance doesn't go in the top 5?
I just have a hard time seeing that the way he's being talked about. His high end.
But I don't know how else, if you're New England, then do you get a quarterback unless you're willing to go, unless Mac Jones is there at 7, and that's where you go get
one thing I read is, like, could the Niners be trying to pump up Mac Jones's value to get another team to really, like, feel in love with them, to, like, help him out with Jimmy, right? Trade Jimmy to one of those teams that doesn't get him.
So the Niners pump up Mac so that somebody wait, run that one by me again?
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense when I talked it out. Just pump up Mac to try to get a team to take him.
Pump up Mac to get somebody. Oh, so then it's like
to try to take him before New England or whatever, and then have New England be a spot, or even Denver.
So that Jimmy goes somewhere else.
No, that Jimmy can still go to one of those teams because another team takes him up. So you're saying
this is just the Jimmy Garoppolo nightmare scenarios. Jimmy gets out of San Francisco only to walk in and find himself standing next to the guy that he thought the Niners were going to take.
No. I like get other teams to try to get Mac Jones ahead of like Denver and New England, so those teams are still desperate for Jimmy.
Okay, you know what? So that's, you poison the water so then you can walk around town selling water.
Those are the games being played right now.
Again, none of that's crazy to me. Yeah, like, one thing I think about Kyle Shanahan grew up in this league, John. Grew up in this league. Like, I don't know if there's anybody as comfortable at his age. If we just said the NFL is the quad on campus. Kyle Shanahan's the freshman whose older brother just graduated, was the coolest guy on campus, and he got to hang out with all the seniors. Kyle Shanahan does not walk around campus his freshman year like a freshman. He's walking around the ins and outs of the NFL. The pressures of it all, I don't intimidate him at all. Like, he feels like he's walking around home. Like,
you know who you're talking about a little bit. It sounds like it's like Eli. they've always said like Eli was pretty calm, cool, and collected from everything he got into. Well, he not only had his dad who was famous, he had his brother who was probably infinitely more famous than his own dad, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was.
pretty easy transitions just for Eli, just in terms of experience. Right?
I don't. This goes back to the whole thing about getting all these pro days. I don't think he is uncomfortable at all with doing things that in the past, just like the whole John Beck thing. I think he just does whatever. He does not care. And I don't think I'm not saying he's, doing anything subversive, but, and again, I think Mike, like you've talked about it, we've talked about it, the Mike getting practice tape Shanahan. One thing Lombardi, he consistently says, I don't know if you've noticed this, Lombardi always talks about the Shanahans.
Yeah.
Like Lombardi is talking about the Shanahans.
Well, he believes that Mike Shanahan, you could probably consider him as much as the GM as John Lynch.
That his
in terms of
matters to
Kyle relies on him to do scouting.
Which
if I told you, Guy, that every game they play, Mike has studied the opponent the previous week and give Kyle like a basic breakdown of some things he sees offensively to exploit offensively, would you believe it?
I would believe it. And part of that goes back to the conversation we had with Adam Schefter that when the Niners hired Chip Kelly, it was, at the time, Schefter reported it was between Chip and Mike Shanahan.
Yeah.
So Mike did not go into retirement and then become just like a gardener.
Yeah. People like Mike Shanahan don't like retirement.
And just because you're retired doesn't mean you're too old to be able to contribute anything, right? And if you had access to Mike Shanahan, wouldn't you ask him what he thinks?
Yes.